Welcome
to South Higgins Lake State Park.
We're at South Higgins Lake State Park campground, and Jesse's done with her meeting.
I'm back. Hi.
So, and you did not go with me through all of North Higgins Lake State Park, although we stayed there overnight in the campground. And now that you're here at South Higgins Lake, the easiest way for me to describe it, both for Jesse and for you, is South Higgins Lake State Park is more than double of everything at North Higgins Lake State Park. It's huge in comparison. So North Higgins Lake was a little over 400 acres. This one's like 1,000 acres. North Higgins Lake had about 182 campsites. This one has 400 campsites. It is, in fact, the second largest campground in the state park system in Michigan. And everywhere you look online and every place else, it says, figure out if you want to come here during peak season, get your reservations in early. And you've heard that too, that both North and South Higgins Lake are pretty popular.
For sure. This seems to be one of the most popular ones for whatever reason. I think there's just a lot to do in this area. Higgins Lake in general is a big popular lake. It is surrounded by, private homes. So from a boating, fishing perspective, it's just something that a lot of people come into this area for. And in Michigan, state park reservations open 6 months to the day of when you want to go camping. And from what I understand, if you do not jump online 6 months to the day, that you're kind of going to be out of luck here, because it's 400 sites, but apparently they go fast.
Well, apparently they do. And everything is bigger here. And part of that, I think you can see in the ways that it's been built up. So the boat launch here for Higgins Lake on the south end of the lake is much larger than the one on the north end of the lake.
I think it's one of the bigger ones I've ever seen, really, for this type of state park.
Yeah, it is a huge boat launch. And the other thing I noticed is when we were driving in is the reservation line. So where campers park so they can go in and get registered and let everybody know that they're here. I've never seen a parking lane for campers as long as that in any state park.
Like the whole road coming in here practically. It just was.
Yeah, I mean, you turn the corner where it says campground this way, and as soon as you turn, they've got a parking lane, and then it's quite a ways down the road before you actually hit the park office where you're going to register. Yeah. So clearly during peak season, people line up for this place, and it's kind of interesting to see it be that popular, and maybe we'll have to come by here this summertime and see what it's like. It's pretty empty right now, but it opened 2 days ago, and with there still being snow on the ground, not so much here, but North Higgins Lake had a lot of snow on the ground. Maybe it's just not a big time for people to come out here yet.
Yeah, I think because the big draw here is the lake, I think it's going to be a while before people are out here ready to camp.
How come when I did the beach, it was still covered in ice and snow, and when you do a beach, it's all sandy?
You're just going to the wrong beaches.
So the difference between North Higgins Lake and South Higgins Lake, the opposite ends of the lake, is quite dramatic. Like, North Higgins Lake still had ice on it, and there were ice and snow on the beach.
Wow.
On the southern end of the lake, it's pretty clear, and it looks like spring has actually arrived. It's only 11 miles away from each other by the road. I don't know how long the lake actually is, but when you drive it, it's about 11 miles between the two campgrounds. But apparently 11 miles makes a significant difference in spring in northern Michigan.
So I'm totally going to take credit for that there being sand and water over here, but I have a feeling it probably has to do more with things like waves and wind,
Science. Is this your new favorite park because it has a playground on the beach?
Yes. Yeah, look at the sand. Apparently it's my thing to always do the campground review in these videos. So my impression here is some of like the other ones we visited, very wide open, very little privacy. I mean, there are 400 sites here and they are packed in, kind of every which way too. There's some pull-throughs, some side-by-sides, some just tucked in a corner. They all seem to be gravel and dirt of some kind. There aren't any paved sites, but traditionally, they all have the fire ring, the picnic table, and your electric pole. I haven't quite decided if everybody is sharing. I think back-to-back sites share an electric pole. From a terrain perspective, half the campground seems like it's pretty level, actually, but then we were in another section where it's definitely more on a hill and they were much smaller sites. I would feel like those were more tent sites or maybe a truck camper that can level, but they were definitely not level at all. The section down here by the lake seems to be more for the larger units where you need to pull through and be a little bit flatter. What I find amazing, I think just in general, is we were reading some of the history of this park, and it opened in 1927 with 15 campsites. Fast forward to 2019 and there are 400. So clearly over the years this park has grown in popularity, and it's kind of amazing to see how far it's come.
Here's something you don't see very often, if ever, at a state park campground, and that is full hookups. So there are probably about 24 sites here at South Higgins Lake Campground that offer 50 amp and 30 amp power. They offer water on site and a sewer dump on site. I'll give the state credit for thinking ahead. When you have a campground this large with 400 sites, come the end of the weekend and a lot of people are trying to leave and dump their black and gray tanks, you're going to need some facilities to be able to do that and keep things moving along. So behind me, this giant parking area is actually staging for people waiting to use the dump stations, and there are 4 islands for dumping. So gonna back up a little bit, no pun intended, but hopefully things will keep moving and get you on the road that much faster. North Higgins Lake State Park is divided by a county highway. Although most of the park's amenities are on one side of the road, on the other side is where you're gonna find the trails. There's several different loops. They range from 2 miles to about 5.5 miles. They're open for hiking and cross-country skiing in the wintertime. In the winter for cross-country skiing, it is noted that most of the trails are considered more difficult. So take that for what it's worth. The other side of the road, you also have Morrow Lake, which is a smaller lake than Higgins Lake and less developed, but there is a boat ramp there where you can launch your boat into that lake as well if you'd like a little quieter experience.
This is a big park, whether you've got 400 campsites or a huge day use area with grills, picnic tables, a shelter, and even a camp store. I can see why this is a very popular park and is probably very, very packed in the summer. Hopefully we can get back here sometime when there's actually people here so we can get a good look of what that feels like when it's packed. But definitely check it out. And again, if you are gonna come here, get those reservations early.
Welcome.
Hold on, sorry, the hair just totally blew in front of me. Okay, sorry.